No worries. Always pay it forward. That's my motto, you know? Because at any given moment, one of us could need a helping hand. Like now, you two, total strangers. You know we're short on cash, and then someone just steps out of the blue and helps out in a totally random way, am I right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Have we met?
No, I'm a complete and total stranger.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Oregon Trail shout out. How about the ending of that episode? So the episode itself was obviously a love letter to the classic 90s Flash TV series. A lot of the references they made were dedicated to that, but also to the idea of family. Trickster family versus Flash family. So that gives you a better idea for what was going on at the end of the episode at Jitters. So I'll try to explain everything, but there was some stuff from behind the scenes that posted that I'll try to avoid posting till later this week just because it is a little bit spoilery. So I'll try to stick to what we know from this episode. General spoilers for episode 11 if you haven't seen it yet. So top 10 WTF comic book Easter eggs as we go along. Starting with number 10, everybody's dealing with Barry being in prison. First, you get the shot of Barry trying to clean up the prison riot without using his powers in a really obvious way, just giving you an idea for how he's going to serve his time. So he will be using his powers, but only in really extreme situations when he's trying to save people's lives or avoid just all-out prison war, which was what was going on at the beginning of the episode. But the idea is that he's going to have to serve his time. The only way he's going to get out is if they can prove to the judge that there was something funky going on. So like we've talked about before, there are a lot of lines of dialogue that are essentially teeing up things that they'll pay off later. And one of those things is that Joe and Cecile will have a meeting with the judge later. That might happen in a later episode. It might happen next week. Some of the things they set up, they pay off right away, but some stuff they just seed for way off down the road. Like at the very end of the episode, when the very clearly speedster girl from the future is writing down those flash symbols that Barry was writing when he came out of the Speed Force. Number 9, another Marvel Spider-Man reference. Whole bunch of Marvel references this year. In addition to Caitlin being like the Hulk, we have your friendly neighborhood elongated Spider-Man. So this is basically the episode that gives him the comic book name in a version of his comic book costume. They changed it just a little bit, I think because his comic book costume looks so close to the Flash's red costume, and they want to differentiate them a little bit. So it's a little closer to the silver comic book costume, which is from the classic comics, but you understand how they like modernize certain things. Like when Prank came back, this is what her classic 90s costume looked like. Just, hilarious looking spandex. So obviously everybody gets an update. You can definitely tell they went above and beyond to show you how his powers work, what his weaknesses are, just to give you an idea that there are things that can hurt him. He's not completely indestructible, even though they make all kinds of references to kryptonite, xenomorph blood. It's hilarious how much of a movie fan that Harrison Wells from Earth 2 is, and the fact that they have the bubblegum that Cisco loves so much that went out 20 years ago on our Earth. Which is really more of a metaphor for the original series, which I'll explain in a second. So a lot of the jokes about things that died out 20 years ago, like the toy stores, that's a reference for the original series going off the air 20 plus years ago. But number 7, welcome back Axel Walker, Trickster. So remember, back during season 1, we learned that Mark Hamill's James Jesse Trickster was the original version of the character from the 90s series who had just been rotting in prison ever since the trial of the Trickster, which actually wound up being the series finale because they canceled the show after that. But that was also the episode that introduced the Prank character, and because we're doing the trial of the Flash, the trial of the Trickster, there's just so many Easter eggs, so it's just ripe for the plucking that they do an episode like this right after they do the trial of the Flash episode. So the whole idea is that after that, he goes to prison, rots, then gets out during season 1 of The Flash, is broke out by the Axel Walker Trickster, then does the whole Star Wars Darth Vader, I am your father. But up to that point, we really don't hear from his mother, who is now officially confirmed to be the Prank character who was sort of the Harley Quinn to James Jesse's Trickster. But I just did a video sort of explaining her history about how she predates the Harley Quinn character, so she was like Harley Quinn before there was a Harley Quinn. Number 6, though, this is actually really important for the future. So if you didn't see, Mark Hamill was tweeting about the episode. He's been busy with Star Wars press because of Last Jedi. Obviously, he's getting ready to go back and do episode 9 really soon, too. So yes, 100% I think that he'll come back for another episode. But because of the way Prank was talking about him, he doesn't care about our family, Axel. He broke out of prison a year ago and he hasn't been seen since. He hasn't contacted us or tried to come back. He's out in the wild somewhere, so he could always come back for a Luke versus Vader Trickster family episode. So if you haven't watched the original series, there's this funny story that Mark Hamill tells about how basically his character, James Jesse, on the original series treated Prank like complete crap, like he walked all over her and she was completely devoted to him. So when Prank is talking about how Axel's father does not care about them, I'm the one that raised you while your father was out getting thrown in prison all the time, trying to commit crime. This sort of an inside joke about how much of a dirtbag the James Jesse character was originally. Like, Joker mistreats Harley Quinn, but it was way worse on that 90s Flash TV series. So they're just teeing up the idea that James Jesse will be a villain for Axel, and in the comics, if you guys didn't know, Jeff Johns actually wrote this cool battle that the two versions of the Trickster had in the comics that I think that they could do, but in the comics, they're not related. The TV show set that up with the Darth Vader reveal during season 1, but still in the comics, all it is Axel just steals all of James Jesse's tricks, his costumes, and takes the name. So they become enemies, but eventually Axel does finally become the official version of the Trickster. So I think we'll slowly see that happen on the TV show when Mark Hamill is available for another episode. But like I said, when they go back to that abandoned toy factory, because she's like this chemist, she's the heir to the fortune of this toy company, Gad Zuko, Cisco's like, no, you don't have the gum. Harrison Wells is like, yes, we do. We still have the gum on Earth too. They're sort of making the joke that the original Flash TV series, which went out 20 plus years ago, like the gum did on the TV show, is still running. So it's just a fun way of saying that on Earth 2, the classic Flash TV series never got canceled. But number 5, meet Goldberg. Just another wrestler on the TV show. We're going to have some sort of wrestler team up, maybe for Fight Club 3.0 or 4.0 at some point. He is a comic book character. On the TV show, he tells Barry that his real name is Dave, but in the comics, his real name is Doofus P. Ratchet. So they're just using the name and making a couple jokes about him being this giant, dumb, strong person. But if it wasn't clear what his relationship with Barry's father was when he was back in prison preceding season 1, is that he basically had some sort of condition that needed to be operated on. No one would do it, but Barry's father, because he was a surgeon, agreed to do it and saved his life. So now Barry's officially made a new friend. He's going to help protect him, even though Barry technically doesn't need help being protected because he's using his super speed. The takedown in that fight was pretty hilarious too. So he's using his powers, but in really subtle ways. The really funny thing though, he has this line of dialogue where he says, like father, like son, after the fight's over because Barry took down those criminals. So one is a bit of a joke that Barry's father was a good fighter because he's a big guy. John Wesley Shipp is a pretty big guy. But also, like father, like son, is in Grant Gustin is playing the Flash, Barry Allen, whose father was also Barry Allen on the classic TV series. So it's sort of another 3 levels deep Easter egg. And I'm not 100%, but I do think that a lot of Elongated Man's one-liners in his dialogue, like when he had really funny phrases, were taken from the classic TV series. Like, they just lifted dialogue right out of that. Number 4, Elongated Man versus Trickster Round 1. Basically, him eating all those weapons, then almost getting melted like the Wicked Witch of the West is just a way of showing you that he will have a weakness that will probably come back around later this season. He's mostly indestructible against kinetic damage and blast damage. So like he can eat bombs, he can take bullets, throwing stars, basically anything you could throw at him. But we get our big Dark Knight Rises Easter egg when Barry talks about his time to rise. Inmate 3562 definitely feels like an Easter egg, but I couldn't find any reference to any particular comic book or anything like that. But then they roll back into action. I love that Caitlin's Hulk out phrase is Alexia LaRoche, her childhood bully. So all they have to do is just say that and instantly she hulks out. But I absolutely love when Iris throws him that tiny little case and he opens it up Pulp Fiction style, like it's the briefcase from Pulp Fiction, only miniaturized. It's basically his suit that he's looking at. When he says groovy, he's quoting Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead, so sick movie reference. But number 3, obviously, Family Trickster versus Team Flash. I love the way they have this set up too. They basically did the same thing during the original Flash 90s series, so they were trying to recreate a moment like that where you have Team Flash strapped into this gear. But on the original series, it was them trying to scramble Flash's brain so that he would turn evil and start helping the Trickster out. On this series, it was all about melting them with acid, but if you don't remember Bebo, there were a whole bunch of Bebo Easter eggs for Legends of Tomorrow, because it was the MacGuffin of an episode where it basically got sent back in time and started to be worshipped as a god of war. So if you weren't sure what was going on with Bebo, that was just a running plot gag that they carried over from Legends of Tomorrow. But number 2, Elongated Man, of course, gets his comic book name. I was surprised that he gave it to himself, and the way that they spin the newspaper is just like the 90s Flash TV series. During that press conference, they actually played the classic Trickster music from the end of the Trial of the Trickster episode in the 90s series. So they ended both of those episodes in relatively the same way, with, very comedic spin, like they tilted the camera into kind of a Dutch angle. But obviously, number one, we have to freak out about Dawn Allen, or, we could call her Future Speedster, but it does feel like it's Dawn Allen, picking up the bill at Jitters and implying that she is from the future. Like Oregon Trail, it's a classic, but it's really not that much of a classic because it's from the 80s, so they want to be a little ambiguous about it. But here's the thing, she's riding the same Speed Force symbols that Barry was riding when he came out of the Speed Force. But if you're not absolutely convinced that she belongs to Barry and Iris, like, one, she sort of looks like she's mixed race. She looks like she could be the daughter of someone who was an African-American female and a white male. But also, she talks the same way that Barry talks the first time he appeared on Arrow. That really quick excitedness about his speech. She has a really technical mind like Barry has. She's talking about all these big science concepts in this really excited way. Like even Cisco isn't talking that fast, and he's one of the smartest people on Team Flash. Like he's like, okay, that's great, nice shirt, love Oregon Trail. But here's the thing, a lot of people are wondering if that means that she might be a version of Bart Allen instead of being Dawn West, because Bart Allen is always portrayed as being this really excitable member of the Flash family, but he's Barry's grandson, not his daughter. But a lot of that gets into why Iris might potentially get powers briefly later this season, and the Easter egg is in the fact that Cecile's pregnancy is going to cause her to get powers temporarily. So if Iris temporarily gets powers, it might be because she's pregnant and because we met the wedding caterer, total stranger, never met this person before, that she is Barry and Iris's daughter, Dawn Allen. So remember, they did have the Tornado twins, so there's a boy, Dawn Allen. Who knows how they're going to handle that, but I think it all just goes back to we're going to need more diapers reveal at the end of the season. I don't think that we're going to find out till really like the last couple of episodes what's really going on, but I think we all have a pretty good idea, and I will do a separate video just piecing all this information together in a really linear, easier to understand way, like this is what they're implying, this is what they're setting up, this is who this person actually is. But if there were any other Easter eggs you spotted in the episode that I didn't mention in the video, just write them in the comments below. There is a new round of that Blast Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is just be a subscriber and share the video using those YouTube tools on the watch page there. And I'll say congratulations to the winner from my last video from a little while ago, Christian Lucho. Please private message me so I can get your contact details. I'll name a new winner when I post new Flash tomorrow. But I will also post my Black Lightning Episode 2 video, and we might get a Star Wars Han Solo trailer this week. So big stuff happening this week, big reveals. Click here to learn a little bit more about the history of the Trickster and Iris West potentially being a speedster briefly this season, and click here for that brand new Black Panther trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.